If you had one shot or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip? Yo. His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti, he's nervous, but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole crowd goes so loud, he opens his mouth, but the words won't come out. He's choking how? Everybody's choking now. The clock's run out, time's up, over, loud. Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, there goes rabbit. He choke. He's so mad, but he won't give up. Daddies, he know he won't have it. He knows his whole back to these ropes. It don't matter, he's dope. He knows that, but he's broke. He's so stagnant, he knows when he goes back to this mobile home, that's when it's back to the lab again, yo. This old rhapsody better go back to this moment and hope it don't pass him.
Listen, we can talk about the flag, but let's talk about... Wait.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media Live. Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Like, retweet, share, thumbs up, subscribe, notifications. Pretty much every single button you can find. Click it, share it, spread the word of Trending in the AM because we're live here every single day, 8:30 a.m. I was just thinking about this, Jason. I'm your host, Phil Stifle, at Beard of Knowledge on Twitter. Shoot me a follow. This is my main man, Jason Voorhees. In the number 2 chair at Mustang3651. Jason, I started this morning show now. We've got to be going on 8-9 months. And I always say every single day. Outside of the 2 times I had teeth pulled, I don't think I've missed a morning. You got these professional guys on the radio. They get like 900 weeks of vacation and the young people fill in. Man, there ain't no days off on this morning show, right?
Joe DeCamera takes a day off to take a bath. Yeah, I know.
I guess we're never getting Joe DeCamera on this show.
Who cares? That's not why we do this.
I don't know what made me think of that. I was thinking about that last night and this morning. Like, dude, my alarm goes off at 7 a.m. every day to come do this show. Then I go in and do 12 hours at the pizza shop. It was this morning. My alarm went off this morning at 7 a.m. And I'm like,
I'll tell you what.
I could really use an extra hour of sleep this morning.
I will tell you this. It takes an added level of dedication to do a morning show, especially when you're not a morning person, because I'm not.
I'm not a morning person either.
I am
Everybody
a night owl, and obviously with my work schedule, I work some nights, so I'm used to that. But it's like an extra layer of like just focusing on getting the energy to like be able to put on good content and come to the table with.
And it's a lot of caffeine as well. I mean, my wife normally I got my coffee and my water. My wife just brought me in a Starbucks iced coffee. I'm like that'll even, if you think I'm fired up sometimes on the show, getting this cup of iced coffee from Starbucks is just gonna light me up, to a whole new level this morning.
Ask Melissa where mine is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she's on her way. She'll be there in an hour.
I mean, that's why I gotta have these. But yeah, anyway.
Anyway,
monsters.
We got stuff on the agenda today. We said we were going to talk Eagles. Maybe we'll touch on the Eagles a little bit. The Phillies lost again yesterday, and so we're going to have to keep talking about that. At 9 a.m. on the I Have No Sponsor hotline, the great CogginToboggan from Let's Go to the Phones and Crossing Broad. He's going to stop on by and bring his personality to the show for a few minutes so he can talk all the great overreactions and crazy topics we've talked about, get his thoughts on quite a few of them, and find out why Mike Missinelli blocked me, because it was Coggin's fault. I'm not sure why. Like 3 years ago, he got involved, and I somehow got involved. I don't know. So we're gonna bring Coggin onto the show at 9 a.m. Talk all things for a few minutes with him. But man, Jason, Phillies lose again in lifeless, heartless, basically nothing. 5-4 to the Giants in extra innings yesterday. And look, we could talk about Corey Knebel, how I said when we signed him, not a closer, but he's the closer. All the things that, 3 of our runs came on solo home runs last night. They are now 21-28. We are now 49. Today is game 50. just under a third of the way through the season. We are 21-28. And before the show, I was just looking at the June schedule. Right? Well, actually, the rest, like today and through June. There's a chance we are going to be 13 to 15 games under 500 by the time July 1st rolls around. At this current trajectory, as it is with Dave Dombrowski saying Joe Girardi's safe, Joe Girardi saying I'm not concerned, I'm not worried. Dude, yesterday, Jason, Joe Girardi, before the game, he was doing his pregame, interview with reporters, and he was asked about Corey Knebel. Is he still your closer? And his answer pretty much just summed up his lifeless blah attitude. Yeah, he's just having a bad few games. It's okay. And it wasn't just what he said, because closers do go through bad stretches. But it's how he said it. We just said, yeah, he's just having a bad stretch. He'll be fine. I mean, do you not want to hold this guy accountable? Do you not want to say at least, Alec Boehm struggled for like a week in the 2-hole. He was great in it the first 2 or 3 weeks in the 2-hole. 1 week of bad, play from Alec Boehm in the 2-hole, and he gets bumped down. But Corey Knebel, he's fine. I mean, I know firing Joe Girardi doesn't solve the problem, but goddamn, it might inject something into this team. It's beyond frustrating.
I mean, I feel your frustration. I'm trying to decide in my mind who's worse, Doc Rivers or Joe Girardi, because they both every day give me something else to have more ire directed at. But I think
at least Doc Rivers got us to the playoffs.
Yeah, but if we really want to direct our ire at the right person now, the more and the further this goes, the person that realistically should be blamed for this is John Middleton, because what the hell is he doing? Like, we're all yelling about Joe Girardi and Joe Girardi should be fired. Well, the guy that can do that is doing nothing, and that's Mr. Middleton. And you know what? Too often in this town, he's gotten a free pass. Like, we all wanted to come around on him and say, well, he went over the tax. But as I said yesterday, the Phillies' method this year, there was no plan. It was basically like, let's just throw some money out there and bring in, the best free agents we can get. And unfortunately, they got the wrong ones. Well, I do still think Nick Castellanos can bring a lot to this team. Kyle Schwarber, to me, it was a waste of signing. I know I'm going to continue to say that, and I'm going to continue to get people, the
hey,
fans.
You hit a home run yesterday. They're all going to come after now.
Coming in my mentions, saying that, how his analytics show that he's an excellent hitter and yada, yada, yada. But John Middleton is the guy that realistically should be blamed. And I'm going to tell you, Phil, the only way that realistically we all can get maybe, I'm not saying it will work, but it would be nice if the fan base would come together collectively and say, screw you, we're not going to the games. And just nobody show up at that park. Nobody.
That's not going to happen.
1,000 people. And then maybe John Middleton would say, dude, what the hell's going on? Because the only way that you can ever realistically make a difference is money.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen. I know. I know I'm expecting too much, but why would I go to the game? You and I went to that game, a month ago, and obviously it was free tickets, and the guy was very gracious, and we love the guy. But I haven't went to a game since, and the more I think, I'm not going to spend my money. I know it's fun, and it's a fun atmosphere to go down to the park and have a hot sausage or a hot dog and a beer or whatever, and watch the game, in a nice weather. But why would I want to go and watch this team? This team gives me no hope.
Is there? Can I ask you a question? Because I've been thinking about this, and I can't because you say Doc Rivers and look, Doc Rivers at least got the team to the playoffs. Yeah, he underperformed, but has there been a coach in Philadelphia sports in our history that is underperformed to this point, like Joe Girardi has, where we're not even we're a playoff roster without a playoff, and been given such a long leash? And I'm trying to find it. Maybe it was Pete McCann. Maybe it's just Pete McCannon Ryan Saber. Maybe it's just Phillies managers that are like this, because I can't remember an Eagles coach getting this long of a leash. Richie Kotite was fired, after his third year or whatever? Ray Rhodes only got 3 years. Chip Kelly only got 3 years, not even 3 full years. I'm trying to think. The Sixers wise, Brett Brown had a pretty long leash, but he was getting the team to the playoffs eventually. I don't know if there's a manager that I could think of, or coach, in my lifetime, maybe with the Flyers, you might be able to come up with one, that had so many good teams underperform to the point where they're not even close to the playoffs.
I mean, hockey coaches come and go quicker than, you could say gone. I mean, you're right. I agree. I think baseball is the only, well, at least in this town, the only team where, managers probably stick around too long. But part of the problem is you had, the golden eras of Phillies baseball, but other than the few golden eras that they've had, they've been futile. I mean, think about it. Like, obviously, the late 70s, early 80s run when they, through 83, and then they just took that nosedive and they were horrible for all those years. And then, of course, 93 was like an outlier. It was like only a one and done. It wasn't like they were great for a long time, that team. And then you really have to wait until 08. Well, 06 through, 11. Other than that, dude, the Phillies have sucked. So realistically, right now, this is the norm for the Phillies. And it's sad.
I mean, it's funny. I saw it and I know it, and it's kind of depressing. But for the non-super diehard Phillies fans, the Phillies are the only organization. Well, now it's 11,000. The Phillies are the only organization of all sports across the entire world, in every league of every type of sport, to have 11. Well, they were the first team to ever have 10,000 losses. They're also the first team now to have ever 11,000 losses as an organization. So yeah, this is just the norm. It literally is just it's pathetic. Dude, my first tattoo was a Phillies tattoo, but yet this is the norm. Why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we put ourselves through this? I mean, it's rough. It's real rough.
I mean, I don't see it getting any better. I mean, you've proposed a couple, I don't want to say
I want to bring one of those up again.
You've proposed a few, I would call them controversial, because Phillies fanboys would get pissed off and start crying. But you have to almost look at this team as like kind of being, the word that we use, stuck in mediocrity. And it's not like they have a lot of great talent. We've talked about it. The fact that their lack of talent in their minor league system, and the fact that their development absolutely sucks. Mm-hmm. There's no hope, like, in the farm system to come up. Like, so really the only thing that you could do is to start, I don't want to say blow it up and totally rebuild, because I mean, we've been through that how many times.
I want to talk about that totally blow up and thing, because I didn't get to read the article because I guess I clicked on too many articles on their site. The Inquirer had an article yesterday, but after you click a certain amount of times, they want you to pay. And sorry, I'm not paying for the Inquirer. I'm just not. I hate newspapers that have paywalls on their website. I just do. But it was talking about Logan O'Hoppe, or O'Hoop, or O'Hoppe, or however you say his name. And he is slowly becoming one of the hottest prospects, not just in the Phillies farm system. He's one of the hottest catching prospects in all of baseball right now. He's tearing up Reading right now. He's borderline ready. He's looking like a really, really quality catching prospect. And he's young and he's cheap. So the question is, I suggested it before, finding a way to trade JT Realmuto, which I know you don't want to do, not you personally, people don't want to do. Would you prefer to find a trade partner for JT Realmuto, because that would free up $24 million to find a center fielder, to find a leadoff hitter, to improve the bullpen, to do whatever, bring up a Hoppe, whether it's the rest of this year or to start next season, you just patchwork the rest of this year, whatever it may be? Or would you want to use Logan O'Hoppe, who stud catching prospects always bring back pretty strong value in trades? would you use him as a centerpiece for a trade to go out and get pieces X, Y, and Z? Where would you stand with Logan O'Hoppe or Hoopy or Harpy or whatever? Where would you stand with trading him or trying to find a partner to get rid of JT Realmuto? Because he struggled, but he's starting to turn a corner slightly again. So maybe he was just in a little lull there. I don't know.
I mean, that's a tough question because I think you would probably get more for JT.
Would you, with his $24 million owed the next 3 seasons?
Yeah, I think he's valued around the league. He's still a very valuable asset.
Okay.
I don't know if keeping him helps you because you're not ready to contend now. It's obvious.
Yeah.
Coming into this year, we talked about could these moves put the Phillies over the top, and it's just hilarious to me how wrong we were, a lot of us, about how off base about how good this team really is. Like, and it goes to show you it can only be one of two things. Either this team is severely overrated by everybody on every level, or these players are severely underperforming all collectively at the same time. And
Can it be both?
If it's that the fact that they're all underperforming, then I absolutely think changing the manager can make a difference. Like all these nitwits that are saying, what will the manager do? What will the manager do if you get rid of him? Well, it could do a lot of things if these players are really better players than what they're performing at.
I want to. I know you wanted to talk Jalen Hurts today, and I want to compare these players on the Phillies to Jalen Hurts. Look, Jalen Hurts, we don't know how talented he can be eventually. He's still young. He's still developing. But you know what? Even when he's having a bad game, you could see physically with your eyes that he's given 110%. Is anybody on the Phillies? Can you look at their play on the field and be like, that guy's busting his hump. He's giving it everything he's got. When he messes up, when he strikes out or he makes an error, he's pissed off at himself. Is there anybody else on the team that's pissed off at other people? Like the difference between the intangibles of Jalen Hurts and what this Phillies team has right now. But it also goes down to the mat. Nick Sirianni, has his team. You take on the personality of your leader. And Nick Sirianni's got the players behind Joe Girardi, literally, the joke, Sleepy Joe. It is literally everybody. Everybody's sleepwalking through games. Literally sleepwalking through games. It's I don't know. It's frustrating.
You're frustrated, and we're all frustrated. It actually produces like a loss for words because you don't even know what to say anymore. You don't even know what to say anymore because it's like we've said everything. We've said how this team is lifeless, how they're lackadaisical, how they're losers, the loser mentality, the 3 L's. We talked about that yesterday.
Loser, lazy, and lackadaisical. Yeah.
I think, it's inevitable. You have to change the manager. I'm not saying that is all. I'm not saying Joe Girardi is the only problem. I think most smart, intelligent, logical Phillies fans realize it's not just Joe Girardi. There are other holes on this team, including the bullpen, which once again, I got to be honest, dude. I was smokescreened. I thought that this bullpen was a lot better this year. I really did. I thought I'm not a huge Brad Hand fan, but I've seen Brad Hand pitch, in closing situations. Like he was a closer for 3 years.
So is Cricket Evil. So is Jesus Familia.
I think on paper, the Phillies bullpen is better. But once again, I talked about it yesterday that there's something missing in this team. And it just seems like everybody that comes here gets worse. And I'm blaming the culture. And the culture starts at the top, and that's John Middleton. Middleton.
What about maybe it's something going on in that bullpen? Maybe the ivory on that wall is like, seeping into their noses, and maybe it's not ivory. Maybe it's something else in their highway. Because literally, how many pitchers have we brought in the last 5 years that were really good relief pitchers that became terrible once they got it? It's literally, it's like a curse. I wouldn't want to sign with the Phillies anymore.
I mean, you can't make this shit up. That's what I mean. Like, it's not like they're not. It's not like they're not making an effort to try to fix it, because they do every year. They bring in different guys. Like, they realistically do make the changes, but it seems like every single change that they make is the wrong one. Like, I don't understand.
Look at Hector Neris. He is tearing it up now. He gets out of here, and he's like a lights-out pitcher in the bullpen again. I mean, there's got to be a curse in that bullpen.
And that's,
is there like a Cowboys jersey buried under the mound out there or something? I don't know. The ivory is getting in the noses.
But that's what makes you wonder what else it could be, because a lot of us blamed Kapler. Mm-hmm. But now you're seeing it's the same issues that you had with Kapler. So how can you keep blaming the managers? Like, you can change the manager, but can you really fix can you fix
I get what you're saying.
The underlying issue is still the same, that this team is inconsistent. They're not focused. They're built totally on analytics. Like, I believe that Dave Dombrowski has tried to fix the problems that were created from the previous regime, because we all agree that Andy McPhail, or as I call him, McFailure, and Matt Asshat Klentak were realistically ruined this team and probably set them back 10 years from their ineptitude of moves that they made. And
but here,
I don't think that you can just fix that overnight. But once again, is it to the point where it's not just the players, where it's actually the system that they're running, the entire system from top to bottom? If that's all messed up,
yeah, but here's the thing. We joke about every guy they bring in here fails in the bullpen. But let's look at that. I mean, they brought in Knievel. Hasn't been a closer since 2017 or 18 to be the closer. Familia hasn't been a successful closer for 3 years. Hand, was a closer a long time ago. So they bring in 3 guys that are setup guys to all perform in, later roles that they're not used to anymore. They overpay Knievel to be the closer because a real closer didn't want to come here. You go back to what was the Yankees guy that we signed that then never pitched for us because he was hurt for 2 straight years?
David Robertson.
Relievers like him, I mean, we got him. He had gone 9 seasons without getting injured once. Well, at some point, a pitcher's arm is going to break down a little bit. Maybe they shouldn't have tried to sign somebody that had that much wear and tear. So, like, all these moves they've made to improve the bullpen on paper seem like they should improve our bullpen, but they're all at the wrong parts of their career. So who they're targeting to fix the bullpen, while in theory should help, there's also the side of the theory that they're not going to help.
I mean, the guy,
you know what I'm trying to get at there.
The guy that I wanted was Craig Kimbrell. And the reason I wanted him is because his body of work speaks for itself. And I mean, I know yesterday he just blew his first save for the Dodgers, but overall, Craig Kimbrell. I'm sorry?
I'm okay not getting him.
Okay, you are, but see, the difference is he's a given. You wouldn't have this issue that you're having with Corey Knebel if you had signed him.
But I just have a theory in baseball: you don't pay for a elite closer until you're ready to contend.
And that's fine, but then they shouldn't have signed Knebel either.
All that time we wasted on Papelbon and money.
You shouldn't have signed Knebel either. Then just go with Sir Anthony. You have a guy in your system. Absolutely. You had Sir Anthony Dominguez, who, for all intents and purposes, has closer stuff.
Yeah,
and you're barely using the guy. Like, I get it that you're trying to take it easy because he's coming back from a major injury, but you have this guy. To me, I think right now, a smart manager would say, you know what, screw Corey Knebel. You're back in this setup role where you realistically do better at. Mm-hmm. And let's just insert Sir Anthony and let him be a closer moving forward. He's your closer. That's what they should do.
Yeah.
But they won't do it.
Well, because again, this organization still thinks they're a winner. They still think that they're a contender. And, as Adam's saying, is it time to blow it up? I mean, we've been talking about that, or we've been dancing around that subject for days and weeks
Delusional
now.
Is more like it.
Yeah, they're delusional, this organization.
Just like some of the fans, which I see people coming in your mentions saying that the Phillies starting pitching is elite. I had to laugh when I saw that. I almost fell off my chair at work. I'm like, elite? Are you freaking kidding me?
Well, it's because you know who it is. If you click on any of these people that say these things, they either have no profile picture because they're bots or burner accounts, or they're like 12-year-old kids. And all these young babies, all they care about are the analytic stats.
Wow, it's
and
like
the F word, the expect. You know, Jason, I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. I forget what the exact lettering is on it, but it's basically the expected ERA based off of hard hit balls and errors, whatnot. Like when a pitcher's ERA is 4.65, but their expected ERA is like 2.95. Well, it's not. It's 4.65 because they suck. You can't take the law of averages that maybe eventually some of those hard hit balls will be caught. No. Your ERA is what it is. I don't need all these analytical ERAs and whips and wars and F wars and X wars and D wars and this and that, whatever. I hate it. Your ERA is what your ERA is.
You know what's funny? You and I could probably make up some term, and some analytics junkie would probably just roll with it. And because they're so obsessed with the analytics that they would probably be like, "Oh yeah, that's a good stat," and like fucking run with it because everybody's so ultra focused on it. And listen, for all the haters out there, I'll say it again: I'm not against analytics. Analytics are part of the game. They are good, and they're a good tool to be used. However, if analytics are your whole basis for running your team, then you will look exactly like the Philadelphia Phillies.
Absolutely. I mean, analytics are why I'm against banning the shift. Because analytics say, this guy pulls it to the right side 95% of the time, let's load up. That's okay to me. But yet, everybody's so focused on analytics and they're changing the rules to get away from it. Look, analytics, there is a place for analytics. There absolutely is. But when that is the sole way you build and run any organization, basketball, baseball, football, any of it, you're destined to fail. You are. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. I don't know. It like we said, starts at the top. Is Joe Girardi fired yet? That's the question. Is Sleepy Joe still a Philly? In Philly, he is, unfortunately.
Joe B.
What?
Joe B's still in Philly too.
Yeah, Joe B. Yeah, we got to get Joe B out of Philly too. No, I'm just kidding, Joe. I love you, buddy. Look, it's a culture case. Now, like I said, I kind of mentioned it as we wait for CogginToboggan to join us here from Crossing Broad, and let's go to the phones. It really comes down to the culture, and you look at the difference between Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni and the Eagles versus Joe Girardi and the Phillies. It's night and day. Culture.
Well, can I be honest with you? I have a thought.
Okay,
Jeff Lurie, who sometimes we as fans, and I was even guilty of it, got mad at Jeff Lurie for being so involved in the business. But can that actually be a good thing? And maybe that's why the Eagles' culture is better. Because it seems to me like John Middleton just throws the money out there and just says, have at it, and kind of stays away. Maybe we need John Middleton to be more involved in this team.
Like
how about John Middleton come in and say, why is Odubel Herrera still on this damn team when the guy sucks? He's a wife beater. He belongs out of the league. Get him out. We don't have an owner that gives a shit. That's the problem. I think at the end of the day, that's the actual answer to our question. John Middleton does not care about you and I. He cares about one thing: making getting people in the seats and selling tickets.
All right, we got to bring our yeah. We'll come back to this. We got to bring our guest on here for the show here. Trenton is welcoming the great CogginToboggan from Let's Go the Phones, Crossing Broad. Y'all know him on social media. Coggin, good morning. Thank you for taking a few minutes to come join us and just talk about this shit show that is Philadelphia sports right now.
What's up, Phil? What's up, Jason? Thanks for having me on today.
What's up?
Thank you. I got to ask you a question before we get started here.
Fire
I don't know
away.
if you remember, 2 or 3 years ago, me and you started interacting on social media, and you got me banned. You saved my life from getting banned by Michael Missinelli. And I don't remember what it was that you started trouble with him, but you started some trouble. I agreed with you, and then I was given the lifetime ban. So thank you. But what was it?
2, 3 years. You're gonna have to pardon me because 2, 3 years ago, I don't really remember what happens on social media 2, 3 weeks ago, and you're asking me to dig back 2, 3 years ago. I don't know, but if it was Mike Missinelli, then I'm sure it was something very innocuous that he took great offense to, that he blocked you for. So I don't know. I apologize. You're not able to see his pontifications on Goodfellas anymore. So, that's a shame. Shame on me for doing that.
Yeah, shame on you. All right, so we do this thing on the show always on Mondays. I know today's Tuesday, but I'm extending it for one day for you, Coggin. We do a thing. Our Monday shows are titled Overreaction Monday, and this yesterday Overreaction Monday. Yes, I had some overreactions like the Jersey Shore sucks for Memorial Day weekend and a bunch of other things. But the last 2 or 3 Mondays we've been just talking about overreactions about how Joe Girardi needs to be fired. This Phillies team's lifeless and whatnot. It's not an overreaction to say, and the fans that say it is, that Joe Girardi should be fired. Is it really? It's not an overreaction at all.
No, 100% not. Before the Phillies started, or before the season started, we brought on Bob Wankel onto an episode of Let's Go to the Phones. The great Bob Wankel, the Phillies analyst for Crossing Broad. And I remember asking him, I said, if Joe Girardi has this team out of first place by I think I said 8 games by June, will the Phillies fire him? And that was met with derision. That was met with a lot of, the Phillies are going to be so good this year. They're not going to fire Girardi. Well, here we are. It's not even June yet. And what are they, 11 games out of first place? Are they 11 or 12 now?
11 and a half as of today.
So, I mean, that's all anyone can talk about. It's 100% not an overreaction because if you think about it, I mean, what's the benefit of keeping him at this point? What's he doing with this team where you're saying, oh, we have to keep Joe Girardi. We really need him to guide this team for the next couple months. I mean, what positive does he bring at this point in the season?
You're 100% right. So I'll kind of follow that up with, I made a comment myself and I got a lot of blowback for it, that if this, basically we call the Phillies the definition of mediocrity. So if this Phillies team continues on this track, is it an overreaction to think that Bryce Harper may eventually say, I want out? Because I absolutely believe he will. I know he's under contract and, in terms of, baseball, he's signed to the Phillies and, there's a no trade clause, but wouldn't you want out if you were Bryce Harper and you come here with the hopes of winning a World Series and all you see is a team that basically plays like shit?
Yeah, it's weird that you bring that up because, I mean, if you think about it, Harper really, he really asked and he really harped on the Phillies signing Castellanos and Schwarber this offseason. So they made the 2 big moves that he was sort of harping on, that he really wanted them, that he really wanted to see happen. So I don't, if I'm him, I'm not sure if I blame the organization at this point because, they've made some moves. They've made some big signings. They did, kind of what he asked to do, but they just, for whatever reason, this team just underperforms. They're just like you said, Jason, they're just not energetic. They are just a slog to watch. Like, I don't know if Harper will ask for a trade because, he's got 7 years left on his contract or whatever the hell he has left. I don't know what team is going to be able to take that on, but I don't really see him asking for a trade. But, in a couple years, if this keeps going on, yeah, it might be a possibility.
Could it be a possibility that maybe Bryce Harper is the problem with this team? And I say it not as a player because he's obviously the MVP, but maybe baseball's not like basketball or football where the stars could dictate, hey, bring AJ Brown, my favorite, my best friend, or go get my buddy, Jimmy Butler to play with me on. We'll win a title. Bryce Harper is forced him to bring in JT Realmuto, obviously an overpaid catcher now at this point. Nick Castellanos, Kyle Schwarber, all these guys Bryce Harper keeps asking for, and it's not making a difference. Should maybe Phillies management just be, go play baseball, let us find the guys, because the guys you want aren't making us any better. Yeah,
that's definitely a strategy that I think they have to look at because you're bringing in all these high-priced, quote unquote big impact free agents, and you're skimping on sort of the glue guys, like the bullpen guys, like the dependable bullpen guys that you're going to get 40 appearances or 40 to 50 appearances out of a year, and we'll absolutely be able to lock down like the 7th and 8th inning. Like, you're continually going to the bargain bin for those guys when maybe it might be time for the franchise to take a look at more some of those guys, maybe gasp, maybe kind of focus on developing some farm talent. I know that's a crazy thing to think about with the Phillies because it never happens. But yeah, it just might be they might need to just completely overhaul the direction of this franchise and how they want to do business because it's obviously not working right now.
You talk about that, the minor leagues and whatnot with the Phillies. And, last week, I think it was on Monday last week, we started talking about the Phillies and we brought up Ed Wade and how we all owe an apology to Ed Wade because, let's be honest, we don't win the 08 World Series without Ed Wade's drafting. And he goes on to do it in Houston as well, bringing up a lot of young talent that they ended up going on to win a World Series with. So then we ended up doing a whole show on Tuesday and then 2 or 3 more segments throughout the week on who we owe apologies to in Philly sports. Guys that we've been so harsh on. And then, then we look back on it, Ed Wade was one of them. Howie Roseman, obviously, well, not obviously, but we have, is there anybody that you think that Philly fans and Philly media, Philly podcasters, content that owe apologies to for being a little too harsh on, over the years?
That I don't know. That's God. We probably owe so many apologies to so many people.
That's why we've done like 19 segments now on literally a 5-minute topic has turned into 19 different times we've talked about it.
All right, I'll say one for me, and this is a guy that I could not wait to trash for the last 2 or 3 years, and I'll stick with the Phillies since we're talking about them. I will officially apologize to Hector Neris, who and I'm going to trash him in my apology because I have to, but he was awful. He was so bad the last couple of years. He was the picture of inconsistency. He'd go a week with, he'd go a week or two where he wouldn't allow a run and he'd look just lights out. And then for 1 week, he'd undo everything well he did by blowing 3 saves, giving up 10 earned runs in 2 appearances. And now the second he gets out of Philadelphia, he's just lighting it up for Houston. He's one of their best relief pitchers. He's absolutely everything the Phillies need. And I will give him an apology because he has put it together. He seems, it's not even June yet, but he seems to be more consistent. So I will officially on your show apologize to Hector Neris because I gave him. Can I cuss on the show before I?
Yeah, you can do whatever.
All right, because I gave him so much shit over the past couple of years, and now he's actually, seems to be performing at a consistent level. So, Hector, if you're listening, I apologize.
Were you listening to the early part of the show? Because we actually just started talking about that about like 8:45 this morning. It's I'll ask you. I kind of made a sarcastic joke about this bullpen. Is there something in the bullpen? Is there something coming out like off the ivy? That's getting into, because we get all these pitchers. Brad Hand, Corey Knebel. They're not great closers, but they were good relievers. You had the dude from the Yankees a few years ago, never even pitched for us after being here for 2 years. He hadn't missed a game in 9 seasons, then didn't play once in 2 years for us. It's like there's a curse in that bullpen. I wouldn't want to be a reliever that's coming to Philadelphia at this point, honestly. There's got to be something out there that's causing these guys to just fall to pieces.
I think you could extend that to just Philadelphia in general. There's a curse over Philadelphia where any like high-priced free agent, any trade they make, the person that comes to Philadelphia is destined to forget how to pitch, forget how to shoot a basketball, whatever other innocuous hockey term that is not coming to mind. Like, these guys just, for whatever reason, the second they get to Philadelphia, they either get hurt in like some bizarre way, or they just completely fall off a cliff in terms of their performance. So yeah, I think whoever, ever since we won that Super Bowl, I think whoever sold their soul to the devil, the devil is collecting his due, because it's been a pretty bad couple years to be a Philadelphia sports fan.
Well, so I on my end, I'd like to stick with the Phillies as well, and I'll ask you another question. Do we owe an apology as a city to Gabe Kapler? seeing what we're seeing now with how the Phillies have gotten actually worse, and they've signed, a bunch of good free agents, and the team is still performing at a terrible level. Do we owe an apology to Gabe Kapler, or is Gabe Kapler just thriving by luck, so to speak?
I'm not ready to give Gabe Kapler an apology, just because I think he learned a lot with the Phillies. He made some really weird decisions in his tenure with the Phillies. Although I will say I saw a stat that he was here for 2.5 seasons, right?
Yeah.
So he has a better win percentage with the Phillies than Joe Girardi currently has with the Phillies. So I don't, it's not great. It's like 47%, but I think Girardi's is like 43%. But I can't give an apology to Gabe Kapler. I can't. I think he learned a lot with the Phillies, and I think he is using what he learned to sort of steer the Giants to the success they've had. The Giants have a really good roster. They've constructed it really well, so it's not like he took a bunch of ragtag guys and turned the team around himself. But I think he's definitely using the experience he had in Philadelphia to be a better manager in San Francisco. But no, I'm not giving him an apology. He was trash when he was here. I was sick of him. The whole city was sick of him. And he, for the betterment of him, and not the betterment of the Phillies, but he had to go. He just had to.
He just wasn't meant for Philly at all. He just wasn't.
No, right. He wasn't.
I got an apology to make, and it kind of links into you guys at Let's Go the Phones. Look, one of my least favorite things in all of social media, content creating, radio, everything, all the people out there that talk sports, whether for a living or for fun or whatever, is everybody thinks they've got sources, and everyone claims, "Oh, my source says," and 99.9% of the people don't have sources. You guys, you go out and start breaking some news at Let's Go the Phones and say your sources. You don't get any of the respect for it. And on top of it, you're right. Mm-hmm. So I actually say I don't believe you guys. But in my head, I'm like, do they really have sources? Because there's so many people that say they have sources. You definitely broke the schedule. And I forget what the other one was that you broke like right before the schedule release.
Fletcher Cox.
Fletcher Cox, that's right. I knew it was another Eagles-related thing. I just couldn't remember what it was. You guys got some sources. So I'm sorry to you guys for not having faith in you guys at Let's Go the Phones.
Well, it's some little nonsense podcast says that, Fletcher Cox is being released. I get it. I get why people would doubt it. But yes, we do have a couple interesting sources that like to feed us information at times. One that went under the radar was 2 years ago. We had hours before anybody else that Julio Jones was being traded to the Titans. I mean, we had it at least 6 hours before it was announced, but nobody picked up on it because we're just, we're whatever. We're a little nonsense podcast from Philadelphia, and it just completely went under the radar. But I will say, yes, the Fletcher Cox one, and I will shout out John Clark for giving us props for that. Like all the national guys.
After a while, you started getting your props for it. It's good,
All
it's
the
nice
national guys, like the national guys didn't want to give us anything, but like John Clark did. Glenn McNow and Ray Didinger talked about it on the show, their Sunday show, and then with the schedule. And I've given Angelo Cataldi a lot of crap over the years, but they talked about us for like 5 minutes and the schedule release. So I will shout them out as well because I'll apologize to Angelo. I've given him a lot of crap, so we'll keep the apology train running. So yeah, it's been an interesting couple months here.
You mentioned Ray Didinger there, and we only got a few more moments. Again, we got CogginToboggan from Let's Go the Phones and Crossing Broad here on Trending in the AM. And you mentioned Ray Didinger. You guys cover a lot of the media at Crossing Broad too. Thoughts on the retirement of Ray Didinger before we let you go here, and how much of a loss that's? I mean, just in Philadelphia media in general lately, between him and all the guys that are retiring lately, what a loss of Ray Didinger it is for Eagles coverage in general in our area.
Yeah, it's been wild. The guys that have either retired or announced it. Yeah, I mean Cataldi too. I mean, I will have to. He's one of, if not the most popular Philadelphia sports media figure. But yeah, I mean, Didinger. Is there anybody more universally liked than Ray Didinger in Philadelphia? Like anybody? Like, can you guys think of anyone that? I have never seen a bad thing or heard a bad thing said about Ray Didinger in the city. And that's wild for Philadelphia.
It's definitely wild. I mean, I think a lot of it goes into who he is as a person because he takes the time. Like, they talked about it, how he, a lot of times on the Sunday show, he was late because he was stopped by 3 or 4 people and on his walk to work. Doesn't carry his cell phone, like, and that's hard for anybody to really, relate to because we all have cell phones and we're married to them. So I think part of the reason why he's so likable is because he's like almost like above he's like in a different level as far as being a human. It's not just who he is as a sports guy, and a lot of people forget too that it's not just football that he knows. He covered every single sport in this town. So he knows every sport probably better than, even guys that analyze it for a living because he's just so immersed in it. And obviously his books that he's written and everything else. But I think that is part of it.
For sure. Oh, for sure. I mean, like you mentioned not having a cell phone. It just like adds to his mythos as a personality in Philadelphia, because how many times you have guys or women say, hey, like I'm retiring, I'm stepping back, but then you see them nonstop on social media or they're doing interviews and things like that. Like with Didinger, it's like he's just going to be gone. Like you'll probably see him out and about, maybe at a couple Eagles games. Like he might pop up in an interview or two. But I mean, that's it for him. So it's almost like it hits you a little different where this guy that everyone grew up with and everyone loved in this city says he's retiring. And then you're not going to see him on Twitter. You're not going to see him on Facebook, like he's just gone. And that's the way he likes it. It just sort of adds to the mythical element that he brought to everything he did. And I mean, his show with Glenn McNow it was by far the best Philadelphia sports talk show in the city. I mean, it was so good. They were so good together. and it's a shame to see him retire. I'm happy for him, but selfishly, it's a shame that we won't get to listen to that anymore.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna miss that "Tell Us Your Story" segment that they do, where they bring on legends from all Philly athletes and stuff. That just an amazing combo. You're right. Like Glenn Mack now, I don't think he gets the credit either as far as what he does.
Yeah, Glenn's great. Glenn is super cool, and I don't know if you guys saw this, but I think they're gonna go with it's gonna be him and Mike Selsky. I don't know how to say his last name. On the Saturday show, and then I think it's going to be a reunion of the Mac and Mac show on Sunday. Awesome. So that's kind of cool. I like the Mac and Mac show, and it's good that Glenn will still be on and get to chop it up every weekend. But it won't be the same without Didinger.
Absolutely. Hey, so Coggin, thank you very much for joining us here on Trending in the AM this morning. Greatly appreciate your time. As you sign off, I mean, we've already gone about 30 seconds over, but
it's okay.
30 seconds as you leave this show. Confidence, as tomorrow is June 1st, your confidence level that Joe Girardi will be fired at some point in the next 30 minutes to 30 days.
He's not going to be fired this week. I don't think he will. I think they'll give him 2 more weeks to make some ground up in the NL East, and if he doesn't, he'll be gone. If they're still here you go. If they're still 10 or more games out of first place in 2 weeks, he'll be fired.
All right. That's not from your sources. If you get one of those little hints from your sources, let me know. So I'm ready to retweet you right away. So I'm the second person that announced that. Hit me up with that, just so I know.
Can do, Phil.
Hey, Coggin, thanks a lot for coming on the show this morning. We greatly appreciate it, and keep up the great work, man.
Hey, thanks, guys. It was a lot of fun.
All right, thanks a lot.
All right, thank you, boys. Later.
That was the great CogginToboggan, Crossing Broad. Let's go the fence, dude. I don't know, Jason, about you, but I love, following him on social media and his interactions. They're great. The whole entire Let's Go the Phone podcast is great. And obviously, we've already had Kevin Kincaid from Crossing Broad on as well. The whole entire Crossing Broad team is a fantastic group of guys, and some great content always comes out from all those guys. So if you're not following any of them, make sure you guys go shoot them a follow, because it's a riot. And we could talk about that for a second. I hate people that say they have sources, because they don't. You got the biggest scam source account of them all, the Vin guy. You don't have any sources. He just throws shit up against the wall, sees if it sticks. He's right once out of 1,000, whatever. But when Let's Go the Phones had sources, it was the Fletcher Cox thing in the schedule most recently. Do I comment on it? So I haven't bashing people that claim they have sources. And there's some podcasters out there that are on our level that say they have sources, and I'm guaranteeing they don't. But
do you remember? Do you remember a couple of years back when the Phillies were, courting, Manny Machado, Bryce Harper, etc.
Yeah.
That year?
Yeah.
You remember a guy on Twitter named Jeff Evans, and his Twitter bio. So he was this guy on Twitter, and on his bio it said KTV, like as if he worked for a television station, and he kept doing that, and he would put out these tweets, and everyone was running with it. I remember the one was that the Phillies are about to sign Manny Machado, 10 million, whatever, 10 million a year, and all these people were running with it. But it was just funny, he became this almost like a celebrity just because he was doing these fake things, and people were running with it and believing it. Now it's every time I see a tweet, some of them are actually really good, like the ones that do Adam Schefter, and they'll have that little thing that looks like the check mark, and if you don't really look quick, you're like, whoa, what was that?
We've all gotten burned by those fake accounts, at some point. I double check everything. The Woj bombs. I'm not going to fall for them. I double check every account before I share out information like that. But yeah, I mean, dude, we're all content creators here of some form. Maybe we'd all like to get paid someday. Realistically speaking, it's not going to happen. But man, just pretending to have a source, it doesn't make you any better. If anything, most people will see through it eventually, and it'll just hurt your credibility. So I like knowing that Let's Go the Phones actually has legit sources, so that we can trust them. But they also are great guys and they do great work there. But man, can people stop with the fake sources information? Really, it needs to stop. I don't want to hear fake sources anymore. I just don't.
Welcome to Phil's TED Talk.
I know. I'm just Anyway, I don't know if you want to wrap it up early or do you want to talk about something else here? Because we're at the 55-minute mark. We could go a little overtime, or
Let's
you can call it a day early.
Well, let's talk about the Eagles. You wanted to bring up their offensive depth chart and quick thoughts on.
Yeah, I mean, I was planning on spending some time. The Phillies just kind of been dominating our conversation lately. I mean, I did have it. I closed it out already though because I thought we were going to be running out of time. The Eagles depth chart. I mean, I was looking at the Eagles offense, and I was thinking about their offense because the great Jimmy Smith, he was bringing up the defense and all the different looks that defense can bring. But that's like an entire show conversation. So I was like, let's see what this Eagles offense looks like. And on paper, there really isn't much going into camp on offense that you could think of that there's an actual camp battle going on. I think pretty much all the starters and even all the backups to an extent are pretty much locked in stone. The only position that there might be a battle for is backup tight end at this point. Because right now you got Dallas Goedert. Actually, if anything, tight end might be the biggest concern on offense right now for this team. You got Jack Stahl. You got Tyrese Jackson, who didn't break his back, so who knows if he'll be ready at all. And he really didn't do anything in his cup of coffee last year. You got J.J. Arcega-Whiteside transition into tight end. We've been so used with Brent Selleck and Zach Ertz, and then Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, and having two stud tight ends. Dallas Goedert hasn't been healthy for an entire season yet. Maybe to back up tight end, maybe that's the biggest concern on this team right now offensively.
I mean, I think I'd like to see what this kid. I can't pronounce his name. Calcaterra. They drafted him. The guy they drafted. I mean, they obviously. Anytime, you have a late round pick, it's kind of a dart throw. But, to me, tight end, I agree. I think it's a position that a lot of times we forget how blessed we were when we had Zach Ertz and Goddard, like having two like premium guys. And now you have Goddard and, kind of a bunch of, you don't know what you have, but I think they are still very high on Tyree Jackson now. Is he going to be healthy? That's my question.
Yeah, who knows?
Now, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, listen, the bottom line is we all know that he can block.
Yeah.
It's just his problem hasn't been the blocking side of things. It's been catching the ball. Maybe the transition will actually help him. Like, he's a guy, like, listen, we all bashed him. And I know we laugh about it, but you were always kind of not protecting him, but like, saying JJ is what he is. And a lot of people were just bashing him because they wanted him to be
overall
something he's not.
Second round, yeah.
Just like Jalen Reagor.
Look, Arcega-Whiteside, he blocks well. I don't think his problem was catching the ball. His problem was getting open. It was his route trees and how he gets separation. But as a tight end, you don't need as much separation. You're not going up against cornerbacks that can lock down cover you or safeties, like cover safeties. As a tight end, you're going up against linebackers most of the time. He might be able to create some separation as a linebacker against a linebacker. Get over the middle into a zone and find a soft spot and sit down and catch the ball. I don't know. I think it might work. What you got?
Just talking about this real quick just gave me an idea for a future show segment.
Uh-oh.
What players have changed positions in any sport and gone on to like be great at what they did this in their I don't know. It's something I think I want to research.
The initial name to me would be Julian Edelman because he was a quarterback, then went to the Patriots and became basically the jack of all trades He was cornerback, special teams, wide receiver, whatever, then developed into
wide
a
receiver.
fantastic wide receiver. I mean, there was a stretch there for a couple of years. Him and Tom Brady were one of the most scary 1-2 combinations. So, I mean, their initial thought right off the top of my head,
Yeah.
Julian Edelman would go down as one of the best guys. I mean, Julian Edelman is basically his career trajectory is what a lot of people wanted Tim Tebow to do. But Tim Tebow was so focused on staying as a quarterback that, never know. It's an interesting thought per segment.
It just makes me think, like, everyone's so down on J-Jaw, but like he could realistically carve out. And I'm not saying he's going to be this superstar tight end, but what I'm saying is the second part of his career could actually be, successful. And maybe we'll look back and say, well, he wasn't a wide receiver and he was in the wrong position.
The only thing I will say about JJ is that he's on the last year of his rookie deal. So now if he does not make it in camp as a tight end, now's the time that they'll probably cut him. Whereas last year I swore, and everybody laughed at me and called me names, I said there was zero chance that he was getting cut last year. It wasn't because I liked J-Jaw. It was because I knew the Eagles weren't going to cut a second-round pick before his third season. And that is why, unless he is traded, because there are constantly rumors swirling that there might be some trade interest in Jalen Reagor. If Jalen Reagor isn't traded, Jalen Reagor will be the last wide receiver that makes this team. They'll cut Hightower or practice squad him, or they'll cut Greg Ward, or they'll cut they could even cut Zach Pascal. They won't cut Jalen Reagor because he's going into his third year.
I agree with you.
They're not going to give him on a first-round pick.
I was going to ask you if you thought he would be traded.
There is a possibility that he gets traded. There's plenty. I mean, it seems like the Ravens have had interest in him, and I forget who else had interest in him. There was two teams, one mainly the Ravens, but there was two teams that had shown some recent interest in him. Change of scenery might work. In a lower pressure environment, it may work. So the right offense, it may work. Going somewhere where you don't have first round pick expectations, it may work out for you. But unless he's traded, he's not going anywhere. He's just not.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap it up there for the day. Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. As we are, we're always live every single day, 8:30 a.m. because we put in the work, we put in the effort, and we're continuing to grow this show. We can only continue to grow this show with all your great effort and everybody that supports us. Joe, George, Adam, people that checked in today. Thank you very much, as always. But everybody that watches this show later on replay, on YouTube, on Facebook, wherever it may be, Twitter, every click, every share, every retweet, every thumbs up, everything helps, and we greatly appreciate everybody as they continue to help us grow this show. Like I said, I got to figure out when the first show was. Got to go back and watch the first morning show, too, and see how much we've evolved this morning show since me and Jeremy did it for the first day back in the beginning. But anyway, as always, great show, Jason. Thank you for joining me. As always, everybody, make sure you shoot Jason the follow at Mustaine3651. I am Phil Stifle at Beard Knowledge. I'll be back tonight, 7:30 p.m. on DSM Media. That's why I have notifications turned on. It's important. I'll be back at 7:30. The band is back together. My other Jason. I have two Jasons in my life. Two loves of my life that are named Jason. Jason Voorhees here. And then Jason Sullivan is back on Fairway to Heaven tonight with me at 7:30 p.m. doing all our fantasy golf and gambling golf content for this week's Memorial Tournament up there at Muirfield Country Club. So make sure you're tuning in, 7:30. We'll continue the winning ways with our fantasy and gambling golf content. Fairway to Heaven. That's also right here in my Twitter handle right there, at Fairway to Heaven. Make sure you're following everybody. Everybody have a great day. And fire Joe Girardi.